Hello there, Grant is back again to make another video. Grant is God. Grant is Jehovah. Grant is the second coming of Jesus Christ. Grant has explained many times, and Grant tries to explain every single video because obviously it's an important fact that needs to be explained. Otherwise, when Grant, who is God, explains all the things he has to explain, well, yeah, you have to be able to make sense of what Grant is trying to say. Grant only speaks of himself in the third person. It has to do with the fact that the English language has some issues. The thing is words are magic. Words have power, and the evil ones have devised a plan of sorts to keep God trapped through evil magic. And God has to do what God has to do, so God speaks about himself in the third person. Okay, so moving on. So Grant wants to speak about the evil teachings of dispensationalism in so-called Christian churches, and talk about C.I. Schofield and Zionism and why it's a huge problem. So let me just adjust this. Okay, so Grant is learning a bit more about dispensationalism at the moment, because Grant's been focusing on all sorts of things for many years, but Grant first heard about C.I. Schofield several years ago when Grant was learning about something else. Well, Grant was learning about Zionism and what are the roots of Zionism and where does it come from and why do people believe the things that they do, and Schofield's name appeared and it was spoken about. So it's very interesting. If you go on Amazon, if Grant goes on amazon.co.uk to try to look for a lamb skin or lamb leather Bible, there's only one that appears, and it's the KJV with the there's a KJV version, and then there's a there's KJV with the C.I. Schofield notes. So, and his notes are crazy. The dispensationalism nonsense is really bad. It teaches some really bad stuff. But the thing is that Grant was learning things years and years and years and years and years ago that, let's put it this way, very difficult to talk about. Difficult to talk about. Yeah. Can you guess what that means? 2,000 years ago, Jesus had to speak in parables. Why did he have to speak in parables? Why did he choose to do it that way? You either know the answer or you don't. So let's continue. The thing is, it's very interesting, isn't it, that people talk about the Jews. Who are the Jews? Who are they? Who are they really? What happened to all the other tribes of Israel? Where did they go? Who were they? Did anyone find that one out? The people who call themselves Jews, who hate Jesus, they don't acknowledge Jesus. Well, they think Jesus is burning in hell, in excrement. They have their, Talmud and Zohar and Kabbalah-tree and, and all their connections with Freemasonry, the Illuminati, and all that stuff. Money, 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 money. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of money. Filthy, filthy, filthy rich. And very powerful. You think how many, when you think about the media and massive companies and influence, how much influence do the so-called Jews have? Think about it. They pretty much control. They have huge amounts of control in their, connected with that group of people who call themselves Jews. That group of people has some very powerful influence in the world, and some of the most evil stuff in the world is connected directly, to them. Yet we live in a world, and you think about in the USA, how many of these dispensationalist churches, they teach all this nonsense about them being God's chosen people, and that, God has a different salvation plan for them, that they don't need to love Jesus. In fact, the fact that they hate Jesus, and, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's crazy. What's the deal with that? What is the deal with that? And that's the thing, It's very easy for an evil person, someone who's very evil and has gained all their wealth through immoral means, just to say, oh, well, we're God's chosen people. That's why we're successful. It's very easy for anyone who's mega rich to say something like that. They'll just say, oh, well, yeah, God gave it because, we got, and so what about all the evil stuff they did to get what they got? They used all those evil means to get what they want. What did Jesus say about, the rich? How hard is it for a rich man to enter heaven? Think about that one. That's another point, isn't it? So, you think most... So the bull, with markets, you've got the bull market and the bear market. And so everyone worships the bull market, don't they? They're like, it's going up, yeah, woo, money, 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 money. And then you have a Bible, which is covered in cowhide, and it's called the Bible. Bull. Yeah, and this is why Grant made the point about the lambskin, lamb leather, C.I. Schofield Note KJV Bible, which can be bought on Amazon.co.uk. That's the thing, right? Because you have a book, you have all the books of Scripture, New Testament, and people would say that's the Word of God, which is another point, which is, well, people like to say it's all the Word of God. You could say it's God's communication, but technically, if you say that from the beginning of Genesis to the end of the book of Revelation those are all the words of God, then in a sense you're saying that every name in there, you're saying anyone who said anything in those books are God. in a sense. You're kind of equating, you're almost saying that, actually. Maybe that's not what you think, but the words you choose to use do matter. The words that people choose to use do have effects. But anyway, obviously the words of God are in the Old Testament and the New Testament. And obviously, you have people speaking, with the Spirit of God, right? So they're through the Holy, they're getting messages through the Holy Spirit. Obviously, but anyway, look, let's not gone off on a bit of a tangent. Yeah. So the thing is with you got all those books, and you got them inside of a lamb skin, lamb leather. Yeah, it's a type of magic. It's a type of magic because the Lamb of God, Jesus. Yeah. I mean, how many Bibles could you find that have lamb skin or lamb leather on them? Not very many. And the strange thing about C.I. Scofield's notes is, it's like, well, the Jews, they can do, they'll have a different salvation plan. They don't need to love Jesus. Jesus is for the Gentiles. And it's a Jesus hating thing. The C.I. Scofield notes, he was a Jesus hater. He's evil. He's actually evil. So, and that's the thing, you think about, so Grant's been thinking, so in the book of Revelation, you have the story about the 4 living creatures. And then, so you have, there's the lion. So the lion can represent Jesus. He's called the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And then you also have Satan, who roams about like a lion. Okay? So, what does that tell you? So, Satan roams about like a lion. Does that mean perhaps he's in the churches? He finds himself, he goes into the churches. Perhaps, that's what that's trying to say. So you have that, the lion, and then you have the ox. Okay? So the Scofield Bible was published by Oxford University. Okay? They generally publish, that's where the Scofield Bible stems from. Okay? Those are the publishers of it. And then you have, the third living creature is a man. It was like a creature of a man's face. And then the 4th was eagle. Well, eagle is connected with all kinds of places, but you could definitely say the United States of America definitely has a lot of eagle symbolism to it. So it's kind of like a puzzle. It is like a puzzle. That's what it is, right? But the thing is that people have bought into this nonsense about the so-called Jews. I mean, what do people really know about that group of people? I mean, you go back 2,000 years to Israel, Jerusalem, Judea. You had a whole mixing of people, right? Well, it certainly seems that way. Yeah, I mean, you had the Edomites, who joined Judah. So you had, so it came Judea or Idumea, and then you had the exile from Babylon, right? How would you know like who's there and who's not? Jesus went there and he said he's looking for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. How do we know that, there weren't all kinds of people there? Okay, look, at the end of the day, where did the Pharisees go? And all those lot? Where did all the evil people who were in Jerusalem, where the heck did they go? And, in Israel, where did they go? Where did they go? All the Jesus haters, So a bunch of people left that area at some point in history. When was it? Was it, what when exactly, and after what event, and who were they? If they did leave those lands and then they made their way west and just sort of went into all the different European countries, and they all claim to be Jews. They claim to be Jews, but just because a bunch of people claim to be Jews, why would anyone want to claim to be a Jew? Well, think about it. If the Jews were considered to be God's chosen people 2,000 years ago, if people were arguing and fighting over who's a Jew and who's chosen and who's going to heaven, and think about it. Why would anyone want to call themselves a Jew? Well, yeah, look, there's some sneaky little snakes who like to call themselves things that they're not. You can see that. There are lots of people who do this throughout the world, and that's just what happens. People do shit like that, and the fact is what happened, to those who loved Jesus, those who were followers of Jesus. Well, they were Christians and they were persecuted, and that's the thing. The idea of who's an Israelite or who is a Judahite or a Jew, that kind of idea is sort of, well, at the end of the time, when God will reveal who the Israelites were and who the Judahites were, but really, Jesus said, it doesn't, salvation is for the Gentiles as well. So, what do what's the argument about? But the thing is that you see, what happened with C.I. Scofield. So before C.I. Scofield, you had John Nelson Darby, and he was a dispensationalist, and he was part of the Plymouth Brethren something in the United States of America or something. And then, that got passed on to C.I. Scofield. He managed to get all his notes put in Bibles, and that were handed out, to lots and lots of people. And it just became a standard in the United States of America. Everyone had KJV Bibles with, and, a lot of it is, it's sort of mixed with the whole KJV onlyism nonsense that people have, that they want to make out of that, and that's the thing, C.I. Scofield added his notes to KJV Bibles, not only, but it was, for the most part, KJV Bibles, and the thing is, well, yeah, he died in 1917, so it was, was it 1917? No, 1921? He died ages ago, a long time ago he died. But anyway, and that's the thing, he got his notes put in the Bible, and he got these people to treat his notes like his notes were the Bible. Without his words in the Bible, a chunk of the Bible was missing, sort of thing. He was putting all sorts of crazy ideas in people's heads, and trying to, the notes, Grant's going to buy a copy of one of them and read through all the notes, or try to read through as many as possible to get an idea of what else, he's put, was in there. But, it's basically taking things, making notes about, when God spoke to Abraham and said, he will bring him into a promised land and stuff like that, and basically trying to, and the dispensationalists, they try to teach that God has this, this timeline of, that's split into different sections, and that, if you basically take the story of, it sounds like, Grant still has to learn a lot about this, but it sounds like, what they're doing is they're taking all the messages of, the Old Testament and the New Testament, and what they want to do is basically say, well, God has multiple timelines, and so the same prophecy will, we can have it again and again and again and again, something like that, right? That's what it sounds like. It sounds like, yeah, well, if the Jews, so they basically just want to use it as an excuse that, the Jews could basically go back to Palestine and basically just take it all back and be like, nope, because God wanted us to have it. That's essentially, well, that's what they did. I mean, you think about, look at like famous celebrities, they wear like, you'll see people like wearing red strings around their wrists, like Rihanna or Madonna, or Grant even saw Rishi Sunak the other day had a red string around his wrist. And these people, they're like, they're Freemasons, and they learn Kabbalah, they're onto like Jewish mysticism and all sorts of stuff. So it's the synagogue of Satan, is what it is. Jesus spoke about the synagogue of Satan. You think about, like how the Jews and their rabbinic oral traditions, and how they just bring in all kinds of stuff. They've added on and added on and added on and added on. They just add on all the rules that they want to add on. They make up anything that they want. They'll just, they just put together so much rubbish for themselves, and claim to be the super, important God's chosen people. If they were truly God's chosen people, look at how they've behaved for the last few hundred years. And the hundreds of years before that, like nobody. And that's the thing, like in the past, you go back hundreds and hundreds of years, they've just been going from one European country to another European country, and everyone's like, no, we don't want you to go away. Because, well, the truth was is that, well, they had a lot of issues. Cool. People have all their own opinions about that. They'll say, oh, well, people were anti-Semitic, or people were racist, or but it's very easy for someone to just say, oh, it was this or it was that, how do people actually know? How would people actually know? How would, if you think about what happened during World War One, World War Two, how would you know? How would you know about anything, Grant, if you see a big pile of shoes, what do you think? Or you see a bunch of empty gas canisters, what do you think? What does that trigger in the mind? If during wartime, if you bomb the shit out of someone's food supply lines, and then a lot of people die of starvation, would you be surprised? And would you then expect to find lots of dead bodies? And who gets to say what, anybody can say, oh, well, who determines how they died? Who's and Who's allowed to talk about it? You know, it just seems very strange. You know, when you hear things spoken about, and if it sounds completely mad, like, what? Like, someone would do that? You know, shouldn't you want to know? You know, wouldn't you want to know, like, how did a whole bunch of people, how did so many people get so crazy? Like, how did they get there? Like, what happened? You know, why is there so much hatred? You know, like, where's the hatred coming from? You know, Jesus was very hated by a lot of people. You know, generally what happens in this world is if someone's really telling the truth, yeah, the evil ones come after them. The evil ones want to tell them, like, shit. You know, they don't want you talking. That's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah. It's very sad what's happened. I mean, the thing is, you know, you imagine, like, being a British person, you know, in 1939. You know, how would you receive the news? You know, you listen to the radio, you read the newspaper, you know, whatever's being told to you is what you're told. How are you going to know anything otherwise? You know, they didn't have the internet back then. You had word of mouth, and obviously, you know, they could perhaps, you know, read lots of stories and say, hey, look, you know, maybe we have a weird government that doesn't always tell us the truth. You know, maybe they use a bit of propaganda here and there because they want to manipulate us and make us do certain things, and you know. But most people, you know, you think about how many people, they just, you know, if the television says so, if the radio says so, if the newspaper says so, if the news says so, if the politician says so, if the celebrity says so, then it must be so. Right? Is that not the truth? You know, the thing is yeah. Anyway, Grant wanted to talk about dispensationalism and C.I. Schofield and Zionism. So, you know, these dispensationalists, they believe that, you know, the Jews are God's chosen people, you must bless them. If you bless them, then you will be blessed. If you curse them, then you'll be cursed. Blah, blah, blah. You know, it's very easy to cherry pick things and twist things, and yeah. But, you know, that's what people do. But, you know, you know, those are called, you know, these are damnable heresies. Yeah, these are, you know, terrible teachings, and people who are not of the Spirit, you know, people believe a bunch of nonsense. And it's very easy, you know, if you were an evil group of people and you wanted to control a large group of people through, you know, you fund some guy, you know, some crook, some villain, lying piece of garbage, and you get him to conjure up some nonsense, and spread it throughout. And before you know it, a whole bunch of people are, peddling it. A bunch of nonsense. How many times have people seen it happen? It's twisting the truth to get, that's what Satan wanted. You could say, yeah, the evil ones. That's what the evil ones wanted, okay? They wanted to steal power. And that's the situation right now. I mean, look what's happening between Israel and Palestine. And how many, look how they treated the Palestinians. I mean, it's absolutely awful. I mean, they treat them like caged animals. So first of all, they come to the country, and then they're chase them out with machine guns to get them out of there, and bombs and stuff, and and then, they treat them like caged animals, using bulldozers, and, they've got some of the most, you think of their military capabilities in Israel. They've got a lot of firepower for such a small little nation. Because, well, that's the thing. I mean, the United States of America basically just hand them everything they want, pretty much, for a start. The fact is, Israel's way more equipped than the Palestinians, who've been treated like caged animals. Palestinians, everyone's an individual, but described particularly like, well, you know what, like, if, look, the fact is that the way the Palestinians have been treated is absolutely awful, and it is. I mean, okay, yeah, what the Palestinians did, what happened, when everything kicked off. When is it, back in October last year? I mean, of course, that was what they did. Was they took like hostages and stuff like that. I mean, terrible stuff they did too. Yeah, definitely. But still, what should the Israelis, or the Jews, what should they expect? And they treat people like caged animals like that. And what should they expect? What kind of reaction did they think they'd just leave quietly and just say, off you go, just push them into the sea, just bulldoze them right into the sea and say, off you go, swim to England or something, It's crazy. It's crazy. It's evil. It's so evil, and and they don't allow any aid to get in, and they attack hospitals, and it seems like they just lie about what they're doing. They just think, oh well, just push the button, blow up a place, and we can tell the media whatever later. Doesn't matter, I mean, the fact is, you've got a bunch. You have a bunch of people there, so-called Jews, and they have this superiority complex. They believe they're God's chosen people. And they look at everyone else as, basically just vermin. Like, get out of here. We the Jews, get out, yo. Interesting, that, isn't it, though? Yeah, it is. It is. Ashkenazi. It's a weird name, though, isn't it? Ashkenazi. Jesus was Nazareth. Nazarene, he's from Nazareth, yeah. Yeah. And obviously, you think about the Balfour Declaration and the Rothschild, the Rothschild family and their involvement with all of that. between World War One and World War Two. Well, you had the League of Nations, which was like the old name for the United Nations, wasn't it? And so you had World War One, and then, after that, there was, they had a lot of very harsh sanctions on the Germans, and they fined them tons and tons of money. That it was almost impossible for them to ever repay it. They pushed them into absolute poverty, and it wiped out. Their economy got wiped out, and had to all be built back again. And it was considered the greatest economic recovery that ever happened, which is very fascinating, isn't it? And it was interesting because their policies, it was all about, Adolf Hitler wanted everyone not to put themselves first. Like every German person has to, look at other Germans as themselves and be like, they all have to lift each other up. And, and their policies, well, they worked. They did work. So, yeah, no, it's a very interesting story. But anyway, the thing is, the problem is that, if you, it was the D-Day celebrations about 1 or 2 days ago, and Rishi Snack or Snake or Sinak or whatever his fucking name is, he got everyone's angry at him because he left the D-Day celebrations early and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, so it's the 80th anniversary of the D-Day celebrations, okay? The landing on the beaches of Normandy in, was it 1944? Anyway, was it? Maybe it was. Look, whatever. Well, that's the thing, The thing is, it's a matter, Grant does can have sympathy for those who died, right? But what's annoying is that, people, it's become a huge matter of pride. You got all these people like, yeah, we won the war, we're superior, God's with us, and blah blah blah. Well, there's some truth to that. There is some truth to that. Yeah, but the funny thing is, the Germans, they went into the fight the Russians just before the war ended. It was basically their last military effort, really. And they put up a good fight against the Russians, and if they hadn't done that, well, chances are Stalin would have had this country as well, and we'd all been living under, it would have been another country full of gulags and concentration camps, potentially. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because at the end of World War II, you had the atom bombs. We're living in the age of, well, if we had World War III, chances are there'd be no planet Earth left. So someone had to draw a line somewhere, right? Someone had to be like, okay, well, yeah. Someone had to stop. Isn't it interesting? I mean, in the event that one country with nuclear warheads and another country with nuclear warheads decided, if it was USA versus Russia, for instance, and it came to the point where it's like, okay, well, we're ready to, we're using our weapons of mass destruction, and this is like end of the world scenario stuff. Like, okay, so who's gonna, it's a game of chicken, isn't it? It's like, well, like, who's gonna give in first? Who's gonna stop? It's a crazy situation, though, isn't it? To think about. It is. Anyway, look. Well, you look. What's the country been? The Western world. What's it been like since the end of World War II? People have gotten poorer and poorer. Society has become more and more degenerate. Less, You know, people have turned their backs on God. People have turned their backs to God and gone after money and you know, and the thing is, you know, all these the blessings are just it's all going away. It's all going away. People are just moving further and further away from God. But everyone's walking into a disaster. You know, what did God say in the book of Deuteronomy? You know, talking about, you know, if you turn your backs from it, if you don't love God, then, you know, you'll be handed over. You know, you'll be delivered into the hands of your enemies. And you know, and you know, you expect things like famine and poverty and disease and terrible things to happen. You know, what does this world? What does it look like? You know, we haven't had a massive crash in how many years? You know, go back to 2001, 2008. You know, you got all these massive financial bubbles and, you know, in the housing market, and, you know, you think how many people are, you know, they're living on borrowed money. You know, they're using usury. They were warned about usury, borrowing money to pay for things, etc. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Because if everyone's using usury, they're borrowing to pay for things, you know, things like a house or a car, then, you know, expect things, you know, and then you have inflation, and you have, you know, and look at how high prices are for houses these days. I mean, well, look at the house prices. Look how ridiculous it is to buy it. You know, how long it would take the guy with an average guy with an average job to buy a house. You know, it's crap. You know, you think about what it was 100 years ago. A man could have a simple job and he could pay for his house, he have his car, or, you know, have a wife, kids, you know, like, got everything he needs. Happy life, you know. You know, he was blessed back then. Nowadays, nope, not so much. And that's the thing, like, okay, so, you know, that situation has come about, and God warned specifically, like, if you do what you do, if you do the bad stuff, you turn away from God, you know, expect your blessings to turn away from you. And people are, you know, arguing and talking nonsense and thinking, you know, we need to do this to resolve this, and we need to do that to resolve that, and blah, 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 blah. And everyone's doing it all at once at each other with all their nonsense ideas, thinking that they're all going to solve it by just shouting louder at each other. And God's just sitting back, just thinking, what a bunch of assholes. You know, where do they want to go? Hell? Probably, yeah. That's where they're headed. Path for destruction. God told y'all. Y'all didn't want to listen. I mean, Jesus said, you know, don't comment on something before you know, don't judge something before you know about it, right? So think about, you know, what happened. You know, how many times have people been lied to by, you know, you think about the Iraq War. You know, Tony Blair and George Bush saying, you know, weapons of mass destruction, we better bomb the shit out of them and kill Saddam, y'all. Blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, you have Iraq, you know, Libya, you know, look what happened to Libya. And Gaddafi, and, you know, it just seems, you know, Barack Obama. Grant remembers the day Barack Obama announced it on the news. He was at home, he had a week off on holiday, and he switched on Sky News, and there was Barack Obama talking about Libya, and he just knew instantly, like, that guy is lying. Like, just see the evil in his eyes. It's like, you evil piece of shit. Knew it, just knew it from just, you know, it's like, here we go again. It's another one of, it's just Iraq all over again. Basically, it's just another war, and then, you know, well, and there was Syria as well. Yeah, people do things. There's, these people who are in power are evil, and they get, they're put there for a reason, because they'll do evil things for their evil puppet masters. They'll be like, hey, we need someone to get this done and someone to get that done so we can make a lot of money over here, and fool a bunch of people over there, and get people to believe all kinds of crazy nonsense and fight each other, and we can make some more money and some more money here, and then we can have them all, we can just drive people crazy, and we can just play stupid games for them, and we can just rule over everybody, and we can bring as many people to hell as possible. Yeah. And people are just, they're just too busy watching crap television to even give a shit about what's really going on in the world. They're like, oh well, someone else will sort it out. But then, what happens is someone tries to sort it out. Someone tries to figure it all out, and they're like, what's really going on? And then what do those people do? The people who claim that someone else will sort it out, they're like, you're evil, you better shut your mouth. We're gonna burn your house down. Or whatever it is. So then nobody, it's, anyone who tries to speak the truth is treated like a villain. It's terrible. It really is. But, like, what are you gonna do? God, you ain't gonna stop God. Plain and simple. So this video was supposed to be about dispensationalism and Zionism. Well, basically just letting you know what Grant thinks about it all. Yeah, Grant's been through the fire. Yeah, let's put it that way. Grant's been through a lot of shit to get here. Yeah, Grant hasn't had any friends for about 10 years. Think about that one. Yeah. Well, it is what it is, I mean, we got to the point now where it's like anybody who criticizes what Israel is doing in, fighting, so if they're bombing the shit out of Palestine and absolutely flattening the place and just killing lots of innocent people, if you criticize them, that makes you an anti-Semite. Now, how ridiculous is that? It's like, well, nobody can, nobody. It's basically what they're saying is that everything they do is correct, and how dare you ever say anything to say, you can't criticize anything they do at all. If a rabbi decides to fucking eat dog shit off a fucking stone pavement, you better not criticize him or you're an anti-Semite. You know what I mean? Well, you know what Grant means. Yeah, you hear what Grant's saying. It's ridiculous. How can you not? Okay, it's a bizarre analogy, but we're talking about constructive criticism. Like, okay, look, like they killed lots of Palestinian people because they were mad about what happened. They were mad about the Hamas fighters and what they did they took the hostages, and well, they were mad about it. They were unhappy about it. They were upset about it, which is kind of understandable. Yeah, it is. But at the same time, where's their understanding for treating a bunch of people like caged animals? They don't have any. Well, some of them do, but most of them don't. Most of them couldn't give a crap about how those Palestinians have been treated. So, understanding has to go both ways. And the fact is that, and that's the thing, Jesus said, love thy enemy. Jesus said, turn the other cheek. That's the thing. It's too easy to get into a fight with people. It's way too easy to get into a fight with people. It's better to walk away from it. You just, people, they get their pride gets hurt, their ego gets hurt, and then it becomes, they get it's all personal, and they've got to, you know, he's got to start a fist fight with someone or something. Yeah, you know, it's like, look, you know, and what did Jesus say about pride? You know, you have to put your pride, you know, to the side. You know, Jesus said, turn the other cheek. Don't get involved in a fight. Don't have a fight if you don't, if it isn't necessary. And that's the thing, right? Okay, so most Palestinians are Muslims. There are some Christian Palestinians. And that's the thing, you know, like, when people suffer immensely, why aren't they praying to God? Why aren't they praying to God for help? Why don't they pray and ask God to help them? You know, that's the sad reality, you know. God would want them to do that. God wants to hear from them, you know. But they never make the call. They never... Yeah. People suffer because people's, you know, what did Jesus say? He said, my people die for a lack of knowledge. So it is what it is, right? But yeah, sad, really, isn't it? Seeing all these horror stories, and it's... I mean, it's so easy for the Jews to say that they need to eliminate all the Hamas fighters, and then, you know, they just drop a bomb in a school or something like that, or a hospital, or wherever they want to drop a bomb on, you know, and they would just say, whoopsie. And everyone's like outraged, like, what have you done? It's like, oh, we were just, you know, blah, 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 blah. And we're just going to carry on. Thanks. You know, and then you have all the Christian Zionists in the United States of America. It's like, Israel! Gotta bless Israel! Yeah, you know, Robert Breaker from the Cloud Church on YouTube. Robert Breaker, you know, he's a dispensationalist by the looks of it. You know, he had a video talking about Israel and Palestine, and he's like, haven't y'all read the Bible? Haven't y'all read the Bible? It's like, what's the problem, y'all? Like, you know, that's Israel's land. That's Israel's land, y'all. They can, you know, those Palestinians have no right to that land. They gotta get out. You know, if they don't get out, then, you know, Israel's just gonna have to drop them bombs, y'all. Or whatever, you know. But just bulldoze them into the ocean, into the sea, y'all. It's ridiculous. It's crazy, though, isn't it? I mean, it's absolutely awful to hear a bunch of people speak like that. And that's what they do. Yeah. This shit is something Grant hasn't been thinking or speaking about very much over the last couple of years, because, to be quite honest, he did it all before, and he drew a line. He was like, nah, not doing it anymore, because of how people behave, because of how people are like, you know, they get all fucking angry, and, you know, they don't know what the hell they're on about. They really don't know what the fuck they're talking about at all. They just care, all they care about is crap television and fucking burgers and pizzas and fucking shit television and shagging and partying and getting drunk and talking shite. That's all that people do. And if you say something that, you know, that they don't like the sound of, you know, they just all they get gang up. They just all congregate and they'll fucking chase after you with sticks and stones. It's true. And then, next week they lose their house because, the government is corrupt. And, their puppet masters are like, hey, let's plunder them. Oh, look, you lost everything. Twat. Like your blessings gone. Why is that? Because people are evil and they deserve to suffer. And they will. Look at this country. People want to complain about, LGBT in schools and, migration and this, that, and the other. Well, God told you, you hate the truth, you hate God. Well, fuck the lot of you. Fuck you. You deserve to die. You deserve to have your country robbed from you. You deserve to watch your children, you deserve it. You deserve it because you do not love the truth. Plain and simple. So go to hell. God did his best to try and teach you people some truth, and nobody wanted to listen. So burn. Die. That's really what it is, and God will just sit back and watch a bunch of people who deserve to burn, go to hell, go that way. They'll go down that path of destruction, and God will just sit there with his with his tub of popcorn, and he'll just sit and watch it all. And he'll just say, well, you get what you deserve. People worship evil. They want to worship all the Hollywood celebrities and musicians and the most immoral, evil, shitty, horrible people. And the words that come out of their mouths. God listens to how much a bunch of people hate him. Even the people who say they love him. They speak. They just, all he has to do is just listen to what they talk about. Listen to what they he just sees a bunch of people that would never love him anyway. Just because they say that they do doesn't mean that they do. Their actions, their behaviors, the way they go about things, it says a lot more than the false words that they sometimes say. Basically, it's terrible being God. It hasn't been fun for the last 36 years. Let's put it that way. It's crazy. Like people want to believe what the media says. They believe it, and it's being controlled by certain people who want to shape the narrative for their own benefit. And people are still like, yeah, let's keep listening to this crap. Let's still believe in it. Let's just, assume things will get better anyway. All it takes is just one guy to become Prime Minister, and next thing you know, everything's sorted. And we're back to, and everything's hunky-dory. Nothing to worry about. Problems will take care of themselves. How many people believe that? They're like, oh yeah, look, there's a bunch of problems. Oh yeah, someone will sort it out. Who's that? Did you ever read what happened in the Old Testament and the New Testament? Like God specifically said, like, do not turn your back on me, because it's the last. You will regret it. You will regret it big time. And people just go around saying, well, someone will sort it out. Don't worry about it. They couldn't give a shit. They don't care. Well, Car's gonna have to keep going. He's got a lot to do. He's got so many things to get done. So this is just a quick video just to say a few things. Yeah. Grant used to be very loud about his thoughts years and years and years ago. And that was a very bad situation. And Grant doesn't want to be there, really. I mean, what's the point? Putting your neck on the line for a bunch of people who don't want to listen. What's the point? There is no point. Is there? A bunch of cunts who deserve to go to hell. Grant already learnt his lesson on that one. He already learnt that most people, the vast majority of people, are a bunch of twats. Bunch of shitheads who deserve to burn in hell. They don't care about the truth. They don't love God. And God is not sticking his head on the line. He's not putting his neck on the line for them ever again. Ever again. That's it. Done. It's done. It's gone. It's in the past. Bye-bye. Demons can... Nah. Grant's not gonna fucking play that stupid game again. Nope. Grant learned. Grant smartened up. He realised that speaking the truth to a bunch of people who will never receive it, pointless. Those days have passed. Those days have passed. I mean, there are things Grant could tell, well, that would like to say, but, well, would have liked to say, and did say in the past, but he would never want to talk about. Yeah, it's, you know, there's nobody in, you know, you cannot, it's one of those things you cannot talk about without, it's just one of those things. It's one of those things. You know, imagine making a subject illegal to talk about. It's crazy, but why would anyone do that? Isn't it interesting? Because, you know, we're living in the age of, you know, LGBT and, you know, in schools and stuff like that, and, you know, people get in trouble because they say things about that, and, you know, someone gets offended, and the next thing, you know, the police come round, and, you know, off to prison you go. It's an interesting situation to be in, though, isn't it? It's an interesting position to be in, though. Think about all the people who were in that position in the past. Think about them and what happened to them. You know, see, God knows the truth. God knows the truth, and people, if they do not learn from their mistakes, they'll be faced with that again and again and again and again until they learn. Right? You see how that works? You know, people want to complain and say, oh, we're so hard done by, oh, where's our freedom of speech? And it's like, well, you know, you advocated for taking away other people's freedom of speech, actually, and you still do. You just don't realize it, or you haven't thought hard about it hard enough. You know, if you want to You know, if you want to put your foot on someone's neck so they're stuck on the ground and they can't get up, and then you want to complain that someone has their foot on your neck and you can't get up, you know? Yeah, maybe you should think about, you know, yeah, maybe you should have a look at what it is that you've done before you go around accusing and complaining about what's been done to you. Look at what you're doing to other people first. Yeah? Look at what you're doing to other people first before you start complaining about what other people are doing to you. You know? That's... yeah. Yeah. Remove the plank from thine eye, or something like that, right? Yeah. You know what I'm going to say. Anyway, this was just a quick video. Just a quick ramble.